Well, before we discuss number ones in a bit more detail, because I've got a few opinions on the modern day number
Mm.
one album, but we'll just touch on the Jonathan Ross interview and performance because have you seen it?
I watched it just before we went live on,
Okay.
or on the record. And for all of Liam Gallagher's musical faults, I think he is an exceptionally good value interviewee.
Yes. Yeah.
Same as Noel, to be fair, to give Noel credit
Mm,
where it is due. But I think Liam is just always really good value on stuff like that because he don't really care, and he sort of
yeah.
has this personality that he's like able to play up to it, and it just really works. It's really good value on bit of shiny floor Jonathan Ross style thing. And like you said, he's popular with the mums now. Now that he's kind of tidied his act up a little bit, he's I think he's kind of like, fair play to him and or his PR team. They've kind of managed to mold him into quite a mainstream
Yeah.
rock superstar. He's all over the chat shows and stuff. And there's a few good bits. Where Jonathan Ross was asking him like, "Oh, what did you do after Oasis?" And he was like, "I went down the pub, mate. Yeah, for like 2 weeks."
Typical,
I'm like, "Yeah, all right,
typical
yeah."
response. Typical response. Yeah.
um, but Squire was probably the other end of that spectrum, perhaps.
Yes. Now that's where the controversies came in, isn't it? There's people who saying he's rude. I think I saw, I don't know who it was, but they were saying basically if a girl was being interviewed, it wouldn't be getting the "oh, that's quite funny" response.
That's really
Um,
true, and the same could be said if it was like a rapper or a black artist, a hip hop artist, they'd get labeled as arrogant or cocky or not interested. Whereas when it's
yeah,
John Squire looking like your nan on the sofa, it's sort of like, oh, old John.
to be fair, he did come in for some stick for it, but there were a lot of people who found it funny, and I think he is funny. He's dry. He knew what he was doing.
Oh yeah.
But when you're going on for an interview with one of the most watched mainstream
See,
shows,
I think that's like the perfect way to play it. If I'm honest
you
with you,
think?
I really
Okay.
enjoyed it, and I think regardless of what music you make or who you are, just being completely deadpan like that and making Jonathan Ross like really work for it, I thought was exceptional. And I don't really like Jonathan Ross. I think he's a bit of a cock. But so it was nice to sort of see him struggle a bit. I can't imagine
Yeah.
that in an interview in like a scenario like that where he's got, like I said, it's what is it, Friday night, Saturday night, shiny floor. Everything
Mm.
probably kind of goes exactly as he says every single week. Everything goes really smoothly for him. And for Squire to kind of just throw a bit of spanner in the works
Yeah.
and that dry deadpan thing is it's really funny. I think it just worked well.
Yeah. He made it awkward. That was his intention, and Jonathan sort of made fun of
Showed
it throughout the
himself to
rest of the
be
show.
quite a bad interviewer, I think is what he did.
Yeah, but by all accounts, John Squire isn't an interview man, is he? He
No,
prefers to stay in the
exactly.
background. I saw something that said he likes to paint, write music, and whatever, go to bed.
He seems like a
That's
sort
his
of
life.
an introvert, creative type, doesn't he? And
Yeah,
wheeling them out on chat show sofas is you're probably getting what you're asking for, I think.
yeah. Sadly, when you team up with Liam Gallagher for an album, it's what you're gonna get, isn't it? You're gonna have to be
Yeah, that's true.
rolled out onto the major interviews. But the performance, I think I've heard better Liam Gallagher done on karaoke.
Yeah, I would agree. He didn't sound amazing, did he? And it was something that I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but one of the sort of saving graces of that record was I thought Liam sounded pretty good. He's been able to look after his voice, quite a lot better since the Oasis days, where I think you could tell he could sing, but he also smoked 40 Benson and Hedges a day. So it was like it was always gonna. And then there was kind of a really perfect crossover point where you could see he could sing, and he had that kind of bit of gravel, and then it's sort of gone a little bit too far the other way. But I feel like since then he's definitely had some vocal coaching or something like that, and
Mm.
and he sounds pretty decent on the solo records. I saw him live a few years ago, and I thought he sounded fantastic. But yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe it was just an off night for our Liam, but
yeah.
it wasn't good.
He's got the sort of vocals, to be fair to him, where it's going to straddle that line of
Yeah, yeah.
no matter how much honey and tea you have,
Well,
it's gonna,
exactly,
it's gonna.
exactly. And I think with the Liam Gallagher live band, he's kind of a bit more protected because there's it's quite a big kind of stage show that they've got. They've got like, keys and bass and guitars, and all the musicians seem really tight and really drilled. They know exactly what they're doing. Whereas he was kind of a bit vulnerable, I thought, on the John Squire tour. Sorry, on the show with John Squire, which makes me kind of question what's this tour going to sound like.
Yeah.
Um,
But at least he didn't mind.
no, that's true. Although that's quite often, you don't often have a choice, do you, on stuff like that?
No.